a country in Africa sitting on over $200 billion worth of gold reserves. Yet its people can't access clean drinking water. A nation with more ancient pyramids than Egypt itself, but remains one of the world's most forgotten civilizations. The geography that defies logic. Sudan is absolutely massive with 8 million square kilometers, making it Africa's third largest country and the 16th largest in the entire world. To put this in perspective, Sudan is larger than Alaska, Texas, California, and Montana combined. Yet despite this enormous landmass, most people couldn't even point to Sudan on a map. Sudan sits on gold reserves worth more than $200 billion that is literally buried beneath Sudanese soil. The country has over 1,600 tons of confirmed gold reserves, making it one of the richest nations on earth in terms of natural resources, yet the average Sudanese person earns just $712 per year. The entire country's GDP is only about $50 billion, and hyperinflation has rendered their currency, the Sudanese pound, almost worthless. One of the main reasons behind both ongoing conflict and widespread poverty is the military's almost complete control of the national economy. Experts believe that the armed forces oversee about 70 to 80% of Sudan's economic operations, using hidden companies and taking advantage of natural resources, most notably gold. This tight grip encourages large-scale corruption and extreme inflation, causing the Sudanese pound to lose much of its real value. The war that's creating Gaza-like conditions. For the people of Sudan, the situation feels similar to Gaza-like conditions. More than 2,000 Muslims lost their lives in a single day, and this tragic event took place in Al-Fashir city. In Al-Fashir, a hospital was destroyed along with its patients, doctors, and caregivers. Sudan has suffered from civil war for many years, and it has repeatedly pushed into conflict. What is the reason behind this? The civil war that started in April 2023 still continues. At present, military rule controls Sudan, and this struggle is between two armed groups. One group is the Sudan Army, and the other group is the RSF. This conflict began in 2023. SAF is the name used for the current army of Sudan. SAF receives support from Egypt, Turkey, and Iran, while the RSF receives support from the UAE. The UAE backs the RSF and also supplies weapons. RSF recently took the lives of 2,000 Muslims. The first reason for this is that the UAE wants control over Sudan ports. And after gaining this control, it aims to extract gold and take it to its own country. Sudan has more than 1,600 tons of gold worth more than $200 billion. In the United Arab Emirates, the large gold markets and souks that you see shine in part because of the suffering of innocent people in Sudan. In addition to this, they are also interested in Sudan agriculture, where investment companies from the United Arab Emirates and other groups are involved. Today, the people of Sudan live in poverty. They do not even have access to clean drinking water. This means that even though they have gold beneath their land, they still struggle to find clean water. The cattle culture. Although the Mundari community now lives mainly in South Sudan, their traditions still form an essential part of the long cultural story of the Nile Basin, which was once known as the heartland of the Republic of Sudan. For the Mundari, cattle, especially the Ankole Watusi breed, with its impressive curved horns, represent far more than simple animals. They are viewed as the spirit of the group, a form of living richness, and the main way to measure social standing. This deep respect is close to sacred belief, since the cost of marriage can rise to 40 cows, turning cattle into the most valued form of exchange and the base of all social ties. What surprises visitors the most are the daily cleaning and beauty practices linked closely to cattle. To prevent skin problems, keep insects away, and tolerate the intense heat of the area, the Mundari wash their faces, bathe, and cleanse their bodies each morning with cow urine. The practice continues with another step. They burn cow dung to gather a fine pink or white ash, which is then rubbed on both people and cattle. This ash works as a natural cleaner, a shield from the sun, and a way to enhance appearance, creating a striking and almost artistic effect against their dark skin. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a future episode. Feel free to share it with your friends, too. It helps support the channel, and I'm excited to keep bringing you even more fascinating content. Marriage rituals that range from sacred to extreme. Sudan's marriage traditions encompass two absolutely astonishing extremes that perfectly reflect the country's incredible cultural diversity. These customs will challenge everything you think you know about wedding ceremonies and marital commitment. In northern Sudan, where ancient Nubian traditions remain strong, wedding customs are deeply connected to the sacred symbolism of the Nile River. According to tradition, the bride and groom must bathe together in the waters of the Nile on their wedding night. This isn't just symbolic cleansing, it's a powerful prayer for prosperity, health, and fertility. The Nile, revered as the giver of life, represents purity and abundance. So this ritual binds the couple not only to each other, but also to the spiritual essence of ancient Sudan itself. But in the southern regions, marital commitment is tested through an intense and physical ritual practiced by the Latuka tribe that will absolutely shock you. When a man wishes to marry, he must first abduct the woman and bring her to his home as a symbolic gesture of intent. He then visits her father, accompanied by village elders, to formally request her hand in marriage. Here's where it gets extreme if the proposal is accepted. The groom-to-be must endure a harsh beating from his future father-in-law without any resistance whatsoever. This act of voluntary endurance is regarded as the ultimate proof of perseverance, courage, and respect, demonstrating the groom's readiness to protect and honor his new family. These contrasting customs, the purifying waters of the north and the trial of pain in the south, offer a striking portrait of Sudan's complex values: purity, strength, and commitment, all serving one ultimate purpose: the enduring stability of marriage and family. You'll want to know which country's government will pay you to become its citizen. I've left a link in the top corner of the screen. I've also put a direct link to it in the pinned comment below this video. And don't forget to come back to learn about the women here and the many unusual customs of the Sudanese people. Women dye their teeth black for beauty. As you can see, women in Sudan have a distinctive kind of beauty. Their skin is dark, from bronze to deep black. But what stands out most is their bright white teeth. This amusing contrast has led to a common trend in which many Sudanese women color their teeth black to match their skin tone. They also believe that darkened teeth help keep their teeth strong and reflect traditional ideals of beauty. While in the West, white teeth are considered attractive, Sudanese women view black teeth as the real symbol of charm. The reason comes from the desire to create harmony with their skin tone and the belief that coloring their teeth black will improve their health. But coloring teeth black is not the most unusual beauty habit in Sudan. Many women there rarely take baths. This is not because they ignore cleanliness, but because they think frequent bathing removes good fortune. Instead, they rely on dukan, a method of using smoke from fragrant wood. Women sit over a pit where special woods burn, allowing the scented smoke to wrap around their bodies, leaving their skin soft, pleasant-smelling, and more appealing. Hairstyling technology that defies belief. In many traditional Sudanese tribes, men have transformed their naturally coarse curly hair into mobile works of architectural art using the most unexpected materials. Instead of commercial gels and waxes, they rely on red clay, dried mud, animal fat, and vegetable oils as their main styling ingredients, with remarkable patience and precision. These materials are shaped into intricate buns, tight twists, or symbolic cone-like structures. Some of these hairstyles are so complex they can take an entire day to complete. And once finished, they can last for weeks or even months. A tribe that wears no clothes and practices polygamy. There is still a tribe that continues to live much as people did thousands of years ago, completely separate from the modern world. That tribe is the Dinka, a nomadic community that moved from South Sudan into Sudan. Even so, they have preserved their early way of life. The Dinka are famous for their height. They are considered the tallest tribe in the world, with most individuals reaching about 6. They also share a distinctive trait, which is the V-shaped scars on their faces created during their coming-of-age ceremony. The Dinka do not rely on villas or tall buildings. They live in round clay houses with pointed thatched roofs, staying closely connected to nature. They raise large herds of cattle, sometimes in the hundreds, and each animal is remembered and valued. In addition, the Dinka tribe's traditional lifestyle means that very few modern goods or comforts are found in their daily lives. Even their clothing is quite simple. Many people wear very light garments or sometimes no clothing at all. They also follow a polygamous tradition, where respected men in the community may have several wives, sometimes even many. All they must do is offer a bride price that can range from 40 to 100 cattle. If you think this video deserves to be seen by more people, tap the hype button right below on your phone. Every hype helps this video get recommended more. Social etiquette. A proper Sudanese greeting requires you to pause and sincerely inquire about the other person's health, work, and family, especially when speaking to elders. A brief or incomplete greeting is considered a serious sign of disrespect, implying that you undervalue the person's status or worth. This can actually damage relationships and your social standing in the community. But here's what might shock Western viewers the most. It's completely normal for people of the same gender, particularly men, to hold hands while walking, shopping, or chatting in public. They may embrace and lightly kiss each other's cheeks multiple times upon meeting. In many Western cultures, this could easily be misunderstood, but in Sudan, these actions are symbols of deep trust, community connection, and genuine friendship, carrying absolutely no romantic meaning whatsoever. Any action will be punished. Sudan is a country where traditional African culture and strict Islamic law come together, creating a society that is quite conservative, especially in matters of personal freedom and dress. Sudanese women must follow clear rules about clothing, often wearing a thobe, which is a long and traditional outer garment. In the past, even wearing pants was not allowed, and there were cases where a young woman who chose to wear pants was fined $29 and faced other forms of punishment. Men are watched just as closely. A man who appeared in public wearing women's clothes and makeup was immediately fined $450 for breaking moral rules based on Islamic law. It is not only clothing that is controlled, daily behavior is also carefully observed. Drinking alcohol in public is completely forbidden. If someone is caught, they might be fined $600 or face even more serious penalties. The media is also under tight control, and journalists are not free from pressure. Publishing information that is considered false can result in large fines or even harsher actions against reporters. You shouldn't drink 3 cups of coffee. Unlike the simple espressos found in the West, Sudanese coffee is a rich and memorable experience shaped by long-held traditions. People in Sudan brew their coffee with ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, cloves, and different herbs, turning each cup into something more than just a drink. However, when enjoying coffee here, you should be especially mindful when visiting the Nubian tribe, because they follow a very unusual custom. The first cup you drink is simply a welcome offered when you arrive. The second cup shows a growing bond, as conversations begin to feel more personal. The third cup represents a warm farewell. It is quite unique, isn't it? But the most intriguing part goes even further. Some Sudanese women believe that the future can be seen in the coffee grounds left at the bottom of the cup. Similar to how some people in the West read tea leaves after you finish your drink. They may look into the cup and try to tell your fortune. The shapes left behind might suggest good luck, a new love, or even a challenge waiting ahead. Weddings with horses lasting a week. A wedding in the United States usually lasts around 3 days, with all events completed in a cozy and private setting with a limited number of guests. But imagine a wedding that continues for an entire week. Everything starts with jurdig, a special ritual meant to prepare the bride for her important day. She is warmed with the fragrant smoke of dukan, uses sandalwood powder to make her skin softer, and has henna designs drawn on her hands and feet for good fortune. Wearing a bright red outfit, the bride stands out beautifully. After this ceremony ends, the true celebration begins. For 7 days, the atmosphere is filled with energetic drumming, the graceful duka dance, and traditional songs that keep everyone so entertained they lose track of time. One of the most striking scenes is the Zafa ceremony, where the groom arrives on a camel or horse, moving proudly through the cheering crowd as he enters the wedding area, similar to a heroic warrior returning home. The biggest contrast between Sudanese weddings and those in the West is that in the United States or Europe, weddings are usually private and guests are carefully chosen. In Sudan, invitations are not required. Anyone can come, whether they are neighbors, friends, or even people who barely know the couple. Everyone is welcome to take part in the celebration. The most fascinating festival in Sudan. Have you ever imagined an Islamic festival that feels like a huge street carnival? Al-Mawlid is one of the most colorful celebrations in Sudan, where faith, tradition, and joy blend into a lively event. Even before it starts, The streets, mosques, and public squares of Khartoum and Omdurman glow with lanterns, bright flags, and eye-catching decorations. When night arrives, the energy becomes even stronger. People gather around Sufi music groups, where whirling dervishes spin to the beat of drums in a fascinating and spiritual performance. What makes Al-Mawlid in Sudan truly unique is that it is not limited to Muslims alone. Everyone can take part, from local families to guests from around the world. You can see children laughing as they enjoy festival snacks, vendors selling boxes of halwa, sweet sesame candy, and excited crowds moving to the steady rhythm of the drums. The food crisis that exposes global hypocrisy. Sudan is currently facing one of the world's most severe food crises, with over 18 million people. That's 40% of the entire population, suffering from severe food insecurity according to the World Food Program. Over 60% of Sudan's land is suitable for agriculture. This country should be feeding not just itself, but much of Africa. Instead, conflict has displaced over 10 million people both internally and across borders, making Sudan the largest displacement crisis in the world. This mass exodus has crippled supply chains, halted farming, and left millions unable to grow or access essential food supplies. The human cost is devastating. Over 4 million children are now at risk of severe acute malnutrition and in urgent need of treatment. In displacement camps and local markets, sanitation standards are dangerously low, creating perfect conditions for cholera and other waterborne diseases to spread rapidly. But here's what makes this truly infuriating while Sudanese children starve. International powers continue to fuel the conflict that prevents food production and distribution. The same countries that express concern about humanitarian crises in UN meetings are the ones providing weapons and funding to the groups that are creating this famine. This isn't just hunger. This is weaponized starvation being used as a tool of war, while the international community offers thoughts and prayers instead of stopping the arms flow that perpetuates the crisis. The literacy crisis that reveals systematic oppression. Sudan's literacy crisis exposes one of the most systematic forms of oppression happening in our modern world. The overall literacy rate stands at only 67%, significantly below the global average. But the real shock lies in the gender disparity that reveals deliberate educational apartheid. While nearly 70% of men in Sudan are literate, the rate for women hovers around 52 to 55%. This means that almost half of all Sudanese women and girls remain illiterate, trapped in a cycle of dependency and limited opportunities that spans generations. The roots of this crisis lie in prolonged conflict and chronic poverty, but also in restrictive social norms and laws that continue to limit women's access to education. Years of war have forced millions of children, particularly in rural and conflict-affected regions like Darfur, out of school as educational facilities are closed, destroyed, or abandoned. But this isn't just about war damage. Even in peaceful areas, cultural restrictions and economic pressures disproportionately affect girls' education. Families facing poverty often prioritize boys' schooling over girls, perpetuating the gender gap across generations. What makes this particularly tragic is that educated women are proven to be one of the most powerful forces for economic development and social progress. By systematically denying education to half its population, Sudan is essentially cutting its development potential in half, ensuring continued poverty and dependence. This literacy crisis isn't just a statistic, it's a deliberate system of control that keeps entire communities trapped in cycles of poverty and dependence. The forgotten empire that rewrites history. Our final fact takes us deep into the heart of Africa and into one of the most astonishing and most forgotten chapters of human civilization. What you are about to learn doesn't just challenge history, it rewrites it entirely. Hidden beneath the golden sands of Sudan lies a story of power, innovation, and cultural brilliance that has been deliberately left out of most history books. This is the story of the Kingdom of Kush, the empire that time tried to erase. Centuries before many of the great European kingdoms even existed, the Kushite civilization flourished along the banks of the Nile. Known also as Nubia, it stood as one of the greatest African empires, an advanced, thriving society that rivaled Egypt in both wealth and wisdom. What makes this tale even more unbelievable is that Sudan, not Egypt, holds the largest number of pyramids in the entire world. There are over 200 pyramids scattered across its ancient sands. That's right, Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt itself. Yet how many people have ever been taught this truth? But the marvels of Kush go far beyond the pyramids. This empire didn't simply coexist with Egypt, it conquered it. In the 8th century BCE, the Kushite kings swept northward and claimed the Egyptian throne, establishing what we now call the 25th dynasty. For nearly a century, the so-called Black Pharaohs ruled over Egypt. Uniting the Nile Valley under one powerful African rule, these kings brought new life to Egyptian art, architecture, and religion. They revived ancient temples, expanded monumental structures, and reasserted Egypt's divine traditions. The image of Africa as a land without empire or innovation shatters completely when faced with this truth. The capital of this empire, Meroe, became a beacon of industry and intellect. Archaeological findings reveal vast iron smelting furnaces, evidence that Meroe was one of the earliest industrial centers in the ancient world. The Kushites were expert metallurgists who mastered iron long before many other civilizations. Their economy thrived through trade networks stretching across Africa, the Middle East, and even the Mediterranean. They developed their own writing system, distinct from Egyptian hieroglyphs and their religious practices. While sharing roots with Egyptian beliefs, evolved into a unique spiritual philosophy centered around their own deities and sacred symbols. Yet, despite all these monumental achievements, the Kingdom of Kush remains largely erased from mainstream narratives. Textbooks often skip over this empire or reduce it to a mere footnote beneath Egypt's shadow. This neglect is not accidental. It reflects a deeper bias in how history has been written. A tendency to minimize or ignore Africa's contributions to world civilization. To acknowledge Kush is to acknowledge that Africa was not a passive continent waiting for discovery. It was a cradle of power, intellect, and cultural sophistication. Why has this truth been hidden? The answer is uncomfortable. Recognizing the greatness of the Kushite Empire means confronting long-held assumptions about race, civilization, and the origins of human achievement. It forces us to rethink who writes history and who gets written out of it. The story of the Kingdom of Kush reminds us that history is not just about what is remembered, but also about what is deliberately forgotten. And perhaps that is the greatest discovery of all, that buried beneath the shifting sands of time lies an African empire so magnificent. It could reshape everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. These facts about Sudan reveal a country of incredible contradictions, ancient glory and modern tragedy, immense wealth and devastating poverty, rich cultural traditions and systematic oppression, from the UAE's blood-stained gold extraction to the forgotten pyramids that predate many Egyptian monuments. Sudan's story exposes the complex realities of our interconnected world. What's most shocking isn't just these individual facts, but how they connect to reveal a pattern of exploitation, historical suppression, and ongoing tragedy that demands our attention. Sudan's people deserve better than being pawns in international power games, while their incredible heritage remains hidden from the world. The next time you see gold jewelry or hear about African poverty, remember Sudan. Remember that behind every statistic is a human story, and behind every crisis is often a deliberate choice by those in power. Which of these facts shocked you the most? Share in the comments below, and let me know if you want me to dive deeper into any of these topics in future videos. If this opened your eyes to Sudan's hidden reality, make sure you're subscribed, because next week we're exploring another country whose true story will completely change your worldview. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss it, and I'll see you in the next one.